Once you have your orthographic view on there, it's time to dimension it. The best way to dimension this is to go to your Open 3D data to find the part you're working on. Open up the pad and double click the sketch to look at how it was dimensioned. These constraints here in the Sketcher workbench should be the same dimensions I would create on a drawing. So the difference between a drawing and the Sketcher is these are constraints which I can edit and change the value. Under the drawing, when I put the dimensions on, it's just letting me know the size of the part. And it's not something editable. I can link it, but we're just going to create dimensions for right now. Okay, so what we're going to do here is look at these dimensions here. See these two dimensions and these two dimensions and these dimensions here. I want to create 6 dimensions. So I know I want to do 6 dimensions. And what I would do under annotation is I would go to stack dimensioning. Under the stack dimension, you can simply grab the left line or the bottom line and work your way up. Now, what I find is if I try and go in order by selecting this line and then coming up here and then coming up here, all of a sudden it's just this. It's like, what the heck? So when you do your stack dimensions, do your dimensions that are furthest apart first and then work your way in. For example, I'd work from top to bottom or bottom to top and then work my way up the steps. So I'll undo this. Under constraints, I still have that line selected, so you can escape and start over, or I just hit undo till it grabbed back to this line. I'm going to grab the top line, and then I'm going to grab all the lines in between. I'm going to work my way from the bottom up. That just makes sense to me, going from the bottom up, and there's your stack dimensions. Let's do it again. Under stack dimension, I think intuitively you want to grab this one and then the next one over, but then you see what happens here. Oh, of course, now I'm doing it and it's working fine. So a lot of times that doesn't work so fine. What you want to do is grab the first and last lines, the two that are furthest apart, and then grab everything in between. I'll click a position. This is called stack dimensioning, baseline dimensioning, or datum dimensioning. It's all coming from this feature right here. So another term is feature dimensions, where you're dimensioning all from this edge. Notice there's only one extension line going to this end, only one extension line going to this end, only one extension line going to this end. All 3 extension lines go from the bottom, making this my feature dimension or datum dimensioning from this line and then from this line over. Now another thing is, see all these extension lines? We don't want them to cross. So what we have to do is right click on this one and delete that one out. Notice that the extension lines don't cross anymore. So I need that constraint on the bottom. So I click over here and I've got my constraint on the bottom. The other problem is there's another cross right here. So we have to delete this one and then add another constraint on this side over here. So stack dimensions or just your regular dimensions will be the features you need to use to create this stack dimension. Now, the spacing here, or the numbers here, need to be in inches. So I'm going to highlight this profile, right click on any one of these, and go to Properties. Under the Properties, you'll find Value tab. The tab called Value should be on the top. You might have to use your arrows over here to find that. And what you want to do is change your description of feet and inches to numDinc. Also, I'm going to go to 4-place precision for ASME drawing. I'll select OK. And there's your dimensions. Notice this 0 is too close. What I do is I turn on the View tab and turn on the grid. That 0 should be 3/8 to 1/2 inch apart. So if I just move it another 1/4 inch here, this one here looks good. This one looks like it's got enough spacing, but that number 1 is too far. It's barely too far. Maybe I'll move it just a nudge. The other problem here is the 1 and 2 are overlapping. I'll turn the grid off to make that easier for you to see. We got to change our Systems tab by going to Properties, finding a tab called Systems, and I'm just going to go 3/4 of an inch. So I just highlight that and change it to 0.75 for the offset distance between, and hit apply, and that gives me a distance further apart so the 1 and 2 are not so close together. And that is how you do stack dimensioning on a drawing. I want to caution you, look at your tree, it's telling me to update. The reason why it's telling me to update is when I go to open 3D data, this part is still in the sketch. Do not save anything, do not update while it's in the sketch. I'll double click this drawing. Sometimes what will happen is you'll get a red X if you update. I'll try and see if I can force the error and hit update. I did a right click and update, or under the standard tab there's an update. And of course I'm trying to show an error and the error doesn't come up. But if you ever have red X's, it's because the part is still in the sketch workbench and it's confused. And that's why these dimensions went pink. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's something in the preferences that has to get changed so it doesn't stay pink, and I don't know what that is. I'm going to go back to the open data, and I must have exited out of this. Oh, it must have exited out of the sketch for me is what it did. Only because it knew it was linked to the drawing. So if you don't have it linked to the drawing, you're probably going to get an error message. All right. So again, to go back to the drawing, I just double click it, and I'm in the drawing environment. I don't like that blue axis there, so what I do is we're going to update here, and then right click, edit sheet, puts the blue axis on the bottom corner. Okay, that completes the demo on how to use the stack dimensions in the drafting workbench under annotate. Okay, so that was dimension and stack dimension that we just covered.